Welcome to A Day in Her Life podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Rinnick, and I am fascinated by how women make their days work. I am so excited for you all to hear this week's episode with Nan Philip. Nan owns her own boutique public relations consultancy and is also a content creator on the side. Nan has been one of my favorite follows on Instagram for a while, and I was so excited to chat with her about her days. In today's episode, we go deep into skincare routines and our shared passion for paper products. Nan shares how she found her way into the PR industry and how that led her to starting her own consulting firm, specifically for interior designers and lifestyle brands. We also talk about how she has cultivated a group of creatives to bounce ideas off of within her industry. Nan shares her morning guilty pleasure, how she schedules her days to make sure she gets time outside of the house each day, and that she is also a homebody at heart with an early bedtime on the mind. We also talk about the importance of creativity and hobbies. Thank you so much, Nan, for being a guest on today's episode. This conversation was so fun. I hope you all love this episode as much as I loved recording it. All of the links to the products we discuss in the episode are linked on the show notes on adayinherlife.com or in the A Day in Her Life newsletter. If you want to get new episodes right to your email on Tuesday mornings, subscribe now at adayinherlife.com on the homepage. Thank you, as always, for sharing a part of your day with A Day in Her Life. I am so happy that you're here. And if you haven't yet, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. All right, let's have some fun. Welcome to A Day in Her Life podcast. Today, Nan Philip, owner of Nan Philip Consulting and blogger and content creator of all things related to style, clean beauty, and needlepoint, is joining me today to discuss A Day in Her Life. Hi, Nan. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, I'm so flattered and excited to be here. When I got your email, I was like, me? You want to talk to me? It was so nice. So I'm excited to chat.
Well, we're so excited to have you. So let's jump right in. If you wouldn't mind setting the scene and filling us in on where you live, what you do, and what your days look like.
Awesome. So I live in New York City. I actually just recently moved like a month ago I used to live in the West Village for a long time, and I moved now to the Upper East Side. So that has changed my routine a little bit, which I'm sure we'll get to, but I feel like a move is always fun. I was remembering last night, I'm like, I am tired. Like, it definitely is a lot of work that you sort of forget when you move because it's so exciting at the same time. But so I live in New York City, and I've lived here for more or less since I graduated from college around, around 8 years ago. And for my day job, I work for myself. About 3 years ago, I started my own business. So it's called Nan Philip Consulting. And essentially, I'm a publicist and a consultant for interior designers and lifestyle brands is sort of how I describe it. I feel like many people don't know what a publicist actually does. And let me tell you, I didn't either before I got into this. But basically what I describe it as is I'm sort of a glorified middleman, and I work with these great clients who have created beautiful things, be it a beautiful home that the interior designer has decorated or a great clothing line or jewelry brand. And I help them connect with press and editors so that they can spread the word about their brands. So the base of what I do is really working with editors and press to work with all these different publications, from House Beautiful and Veranda to online magazines that we read. But then in addition to that, I also do a lot of work with influencers on behalf of these brands, and just general sort of like the consulting bucket of what I do, I would say, is really just like advising on these brands the best I can of what should we be posting on social media? How should you be growing your brand? So I have about 6 to 8 clients, a handful of female interior designers, and then usually I work with about 2 to 3 product brands. Usually, again, female founded on the smaller side. I really like to work with sort of up and coming people and who are also growing their own businesses. And then in addition to that, that's like my day job, keeps me busy from 9 to 5. But I also on the side have a bit of a side hustle, and I have an Instagram account at Nan Philip and a corresponding blog where I just sort of share my favorite things. I'm just love to, like, if I find something great, to shout it from the rooftops. So I've sort of taken that from just texting friends about favorite things to sharing it with this little corner of the internet. I'm continually shocked that more people than just my mom and her friends follow me, but it's been really fun. And I've met so many amazing people it's so crazy to me to say like, oh, this is my friend from Instagram, but it's so true. Like you can really meet and connect with amazing people. And so that's my fun little, it's definitely more than a side hobby, but it is my second job. As we go through my day, you'll see like I always like to do my consulting work first, have that be the priority. And then as I find time, I dive into sharing other things.
Awesome. And how did you get into consulting or having your own business? Does it dovetail with what you did in school or kind of your experience immediately after college?
I would say not for school. I went to Middlebury College, which is a small liberal arts school in Vermont, and we didn't have anything. Like there was no communications, public relations major. There was nothing like that. I was an art history major, which was great, but I definitely knew at the time that I wasn't going to work in a museum or anything like that. Like that, it just was sort of the major that worked. And I'd always loved interior design. I had interned for a few interior designers, thought that was a route I maybe wanted to go down. But then I realized I was like, oof, like, I don't know if I'm good at all the measuring or want to be working with the contractors, like the actual work of being an interior designer. I wasn't sure it was for me. So then I was unsure where to go. And one of my mom's friends was a writer, sort of a lifestyle writer. She'd written for the New York Times, for different small publications. And so I chatted with her and she was amazing and helped connect me with different people while I was in college looking for an internship. So I really kind of fell into it. She connected me with my first boss, Elizabeth Blitzer, who had a small PR agency for interior design, or it's not even small. She has a great PR agency for interior designers and home brands, and she works with amazing clients. So I still didn't totally get what PR was, but I knew who all her fabulous clients were. So I was like, yes, I want to work for her. So I interned for her and luckily went back and kept working after college for about 5 years. So I really credit that. Like I didn't learn what I'm doing in college. I learned it on the job. And I think a lot of people, when they apply for jobs and all these things, you're like, I don't know if I'm qualified. Like your first job, you just have to get the job and then you learn it there. Like basically every job, you really can learn it once you get there. You just need to like be driven and smart and have the skills to like stay on task. So I did that. And then I really enjoyed it. After that, I went and worked in-house at a few brands because I wanted to see what that was like. I've always wanted to have my own business. I think I have an entrepreneurial spirit, I suppose. Like when I was a child, I sold ribbon belts, like growth grain ribbon belts for a while. I then had a business that was like a watercolor stationery business where I did little watercolor designs. I sold them on Etsy. Like I so credit my parents because I think they totally cultivated my creative spirit when I was younger and were like, great, you want to do that? Let's do it.
Why not?
Which was so nice of them to sort of not shut down my weird ideas as a child. So I think if I look back, it makes sense that I work for myself in that sense. I always have had a lot of ideas, but I really fell into having my own business during COVID. I think during COVID, so many things were happening. And I had just left a job working in-house at a brand. It was like a short-term job. I was filling in for someone for 6 months. And then I was like, what am I going to do? It's the middle of COVID. I don't want a job over Zoom, what? And so I really needed to be looking for new jobs. And people then in my network approached me to do their PR. I was like, I don't have a PR business. Why are you calling me? But I had helped a few clients on the side. So I was like, maybe if there's ever a time to dive in, I should try it now, as I live with my parents and I can have some, if I have some extra money in the bank because I'm not paying rent, let's give it a try. And so I really dove into it. And I think starting your own business, I don't know if I might have been a little bit naive to it in the best way, because if I had really thought through about all the elements, I might not have done it because it's a lot of work to get the balls rolling. But I think also I'm young, I'm single. I was like, what's the biggest risk? I felt like it was the right time to try because if it all failed, I could just find another job. But now 3 years later, it seems to be working. And now that I work for myself, I think it will be very hard for me to ever go back and work for a big business.
I can absolutely imagine that. So let's go through a day in your life. Let's start with your mornings. So take us through when you wake up to when you start work. What does your routine look like, or your new routine as you get settled in your new place?
Okay, I love this. I mean, I've been listening to some of your other episodes, and I have to say, first, as a caveat, I feel like my life is so nice and almost luxurious as like a young single gal with no children. So take that, like, just let's all note that before I dive in and tell everyone that I wake up at 7:30. Like, I feel like that's such a luxury. So I love to sleep, and I'm a huge, like, I really don't function well if I don't have at least 9 hours of sleep. So, and I'm not a morning person, but I'd also happily sleep in. So I usually set my alarm for 7:30. Sometimes I set it for 7. I always wish I woke up at 6:30 just to have more time to exercise or do something. But my typical is 7:30, wake up. I have like my phone. I wish it didn't, but I put my phone right on my bedside table. So it's my alarm and my phone that goes off. Sometimes I hit snooze, not all the time, but sometimes. Then I'll definitely, like, I usually get out of the bed pretty quickly, open my shades, like let the light in, go to the bathroom, whatever. And then one of my many guilty pleasures, I usually get back in bed for about like 20 minutes and am on my phone, like seeing what happened in the last, 12 hours, like seeing if any emails that are important came in, texting my family, just sort of seeing what I've missed. I am totally sort of a grandma at heart. So I go to bed usually around 9:30. Like, I love to be asleep by 10. So sometimes I definitely miss like texts from friends or whatnot. So then I definitely sort of just lay in bed for a little bit longer. And I love that part of the morning. It's just like a calm way to start the day. Then I usually can't function without coffee. So I go through phases of like, yes, it would be great to save money and make a coffee at home. But in reality, because I work from home, I've gone through different phases in the past 3 years of I worked at a co-working space for a little bit. I then rented an office for a little bit, which was definitely healthy, and all of those were good in different ways. But I think New York is expensive. I'd rather not pay that extra money, work from home. And I'm very excited. I have a good work from home space in this new apartment. So when I work from home, I find I need to get out of the apartment before I start work. Like, I can't just be home all day. It's just, then all of a sudden it's like 2 p.m. and you're like, I haven't gotten any fresh air. So usually what I like to do is I will pull myself out of bed after I've like had those 20 minutes. I will do part 1 of my skincare routine. I love all things skincare and makeup and everything. So I'll do part 1, which is like washing my face using like 2 different a serum, and usually my vitamin C serum, which is like you do 2 things in your skincare routine. I'm no doctor, but I feel like everyone should be using a retinol and a vitamin C and SPF. So I usually do my vitamin C serum, let that soak in for a second, and put on my SPF. And that's like my step 1. While I do that, I usually, if I'm in a good mood, try to listen to, I have the NPR app on my phone, and they have, like, obviously we could all listen to NPR all day long, but they have this good 5-minute sort of morning edition where they compile the latest stories from, news in the last 24 hours. So I typically listen to that because it usually takes me 5 minutes to brush my hair, do these skincare steps, put in my contacts. And that makes me feel like a little more prepped for the day, just like gives you the top news stories. And then I usually put on workout clothes if I'm working out or not. It's just my go-to outfit, and head out for a walk and to get coffee. Ideally, I'd go for a walk for like 30 to 40 minutes and then get coffee on my way home at a coffee shop. Some days, I'm going to be totally honest with you, I walk the 5 to 10 minutes to the coffee shop and walk right back. Like, that's it. I am not a workout fiend. Like, I've listened to some of your other episodes, and I so admire and am jealous of the people who need to work out every day. I mean, my body might tell me I need to work out every day, but my brain does not. It's just not my favorite activity. So usually I always try to get in a walk because that makes me feel like at least I've done a little something, moved my body. My daily routine will change. Once a week, I work out with a trainer, like do real strength training. That stays in my schedule. Usually that's around 9 a.m. on Tuesdays. So that tweaks things a little bit. I like to go to a soul cycle class if I can once a week, or Pilates. Like, I have usually 2 days a week where I get in a solid workout. I would love to say, but I don't think my doctor would like to hear this. I would love to say I do that 5 days a week, but I really, right now, don't. that's just me being candid, but hopefully a walk. And then I usually pick up a coffee downtown. When I lived in the West Village, like I had 2 spots that I went for my coffee. I love a routine. I get the same thing. I love, New York is a big city to live in, and you can kind of feel like a teeny ant in this huge world of people. But I do think once you've lived in New York, you know that it's really a lot of neighborhoods. And so I like, maybe because I'm a routine person or just also a little bit chatty, I like to like go to the same coffee place. So then the barista and they say hi to you and know your order. I just like find that sort of is really nice when you live in these big cities where typically you might not know a lot of people as you walk on the street. So I haven't built that yet in my new routine, but I'm trying all the coffee spots and figuring out everything. So that usually happens. And then hopefully by around 9 or 9:30, I'm back at my apartment. And that's when I'll dive into work. A lot of my work is really email based. My consulting job, it's a lot of like, to keep everything running smoothly, I have to like be on top of my inbox. I do have phone calls with people. I do stuff in person, but like a lot of us, I have an email job. It's just the way of the world these days. But that's kind of how my morning routine goes.
What are your favorite products right now for part 1 of your skincare routine?
Okay. So for years, ever and ever, I've washed my face with Is Clinical's cleansing complex. It's like a gel cleanser. I have a lot of friends that use it. I think it's like overarchingly a great product. It's so funny because I try a ton of new skincare products all the time, but I just love that one so much that I really don't stray from it. So I clean my face with that. I recently, in the last year or so, have been using, which I feel a little bad, it's not great for the environment, these, what do they call them? These cloths that aren't reusable. It's like a one-time cleansing cloth. I think they're called like Fresh Skin Club that I buy on Amazon. And they're just like, I feel like they do say they're biodegradable. So all our environmentalists out there, we can feel slightly better, but I do feel a little bit bad. It's like not a washcloth, but I think it's a lot better for your skin because then there's just not the bacteria that can get on your washcloths. So I use that. And then I love this brand called Dew. I hope I'm saying that correctly. It's sort of a French word. It's an American brand, and they have just about like 4 skincare products. They're really great on social media, which of course probably enticed me to first buy them. But they have wonderful products. It's definitely sort of like a millennial Gen Z type brand, but I really think they do everything really thoughtfully and well. So I use their Deliverance Serum by Dew. That's what I use first on my skin. It's sort of this like amazing at first I bought it, and I have to tell everyone, like maybe for 2 weeks, I was like, I don't know what this does. Like I'm a little confused. But really what they say it is it's just this like calming serum that also gives you a bit of firmness and helps you have better skin as you age. But really what it also does is just like calm your skin. And if you have any blemishes or a little like something here or there that you don't love, I think it really just gives you this nice base and keeps everything as pretty as possible. So I do 2 pumps of that, let that dry for a second, and then I use vitamin C, a vitamin C serum. Right now, I typically use is SkinCeuticals vitamin C, which everyone loves. Is like the sort of end all be all product. It's a little bit expensive. That's what I've used a lot. But last time I went to my dermatologist, I was telling her that that's what I use, but sometimes I get anxious about it going bad because vitamin C is not the most stable product. So you have to be careful about using it pretty quickly because it will change color. And once it gets too dark, it's not efficient anymore. So like when you first start it, it should be a pretty clear substance. And then let's say you've had that product for 3 months. In 3 months, you can see it will change color and become a deeper orange. Once it becomes that color, it's, I guess, again, so not a dermatologist or doctor, but I guess the efficacy of it has really decreased. So my dermatologist sold me something, which I wish I knew the exact name, but I can send it to you, Ellie, so we can link to it. I think it's called Isidin, which is like they make a sunscreen that I really like, but it's that brand, their vitamin C, and they come in these little capsules that are like, it's sort of 4 uses per, like it's a little capsule that's maybe 2 inches tall. And so it just has enough in each capsule that you can use for like 3 to 4 days. So that way it's not going to be exposed to too much air and light and go bad. So you just open it, use it for that short period of time, toss it. I think you probably get 100 in your box. So that's currently what I'm using.
Nice.
Seems good, but I don't know if I'll buy it. It's sort of a lot of pieces. I think I might, once I get through it, go back
Find
to
something else.
pharmaceuticals. And then sunscreen, I'm obsessed with. I love I just would love to never have to wear makeup. I'm not there yet, but I always am trying to do as much as I can on the skincare front to not have to wear makeup. So vitamin C helps with that. Retinol and SPF, I really think are the key things. Lately, I've been on a kick. I follow a lot of dermatologists on Instagram. One of them being like, I think Mrs. Derm or Derm Wife, who's a bit controversial, but she's a fun follow. I'll share the link so we can all follow her. But she really talks about, and other dermatologists too, that basically anywhere that's not the US, their sunscreen's better because they just have different rules and different filters of what they can put in a sunscreen. And in the US, the FDA is just really behind on updating what we can put in sunscreens. So I try to, when I can, buy European sunscreen. So anytime anyone goes, you should anytime you travel to Europe, go to the pharmacy there, buy your sunscreen there. The bottle might look the same as what you get in the US, but they're made completely differently and it's much better. So right now I'm using a sunscreen. What is it called? It's like a newer it's a brand actually from Australia, but I will get the link for everyone. But I did buy it on Harrods, ship it to me for $30. It's a bit of a process. So really, in the end, I could talk about sunscreen all day. I own so many, but everything I've read in the long run is just we all need to be wearing sunscreen. Until you're wearing it every day and never skip it, that's when you can start worrying about what type. But to start, putting on your sunscreen is key.
I need to get a little bit better at remembering every single day. That's my
I just
personal
put it on. I think
mountain.
it just has to be my next step. The one that the US ones I love, Elta MD is my go-to.
I love that one.
And it really is a moisturizer with SPF in it. So I just think of it okay, I do my vitamin C, sort of let it sink in because vitamin C is kind of tacky, and then put on the Elta MD or any other sunscreen. And then you're okay, with my contacts, it just has to be that routine.
Yeah, I need to do that. So you're settled down for work. You said a lot of emails, but also some face-to-face or some calls. How do you schedule your day typically, and how do you keep yourself organized for your day?
Sort of looking at my longer day in general, because I work from home, I am just 29 years old, single. I do like to schedule as I look at my week. I like to usually have one or two social things a day, just where I'm seeing people face to face. So luckily with my work, even though a lot of it's over email, there is a huge social component of just meeting someone for lunch, meeting someone for drinks to really catch up and almost network, I guess. So as I chat with people, I try to plan that out and be okay, Monday, I don't I have one work call, but no fun social plans. Let's do something that day. And I usually try then to spread that out. So I have one or two things a day versus 4. I know some people sort of batch their day and they're I'm going to be out all day on Friday going to 4 meetings that are in person. I personally, to keep my life just a little more interesting and keep my days more busy, like to have more just one thing a day or maybe 2, because then I can always have a reason to get dressed every day, where if I was home all day on Monday and occasionally there'll be a Monday. If it was a day where I don't do something, usually it's a Monday where I don't see people, but I like it because it helps me get dressed for the day, make sure I get out, do other errands while I'm out. What's maybe different about my life, and because I work for myself, I can really my day is so flexible. It's so almost amazingly unpredictable because I can really make it be what I want. I need to go to the doctor, I can do it at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday. I want to get my hair cut, I can do that on a Thursday during the middle of the day. I definitely do a lot of personal things during my day. And so I'm sure some people are is she ever working? But with that, I feel I definitely equally don't work true hours. Saturday or Sunday, I'll do a lot of, email work for my main consulting job, or randomly at a 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., I'll do some work. So that makes my days a little harder to predict. Usually though, if I can, I'll choose an afternoon coffee or drinks as my social work commitment. I find I used to sometimes book them in the morning, and I'm always happy to get a coffee with someone, but that does kind of just mess up your day, mess up my productivity for the day. If it's like, okay, I met someone at 9 for coffee, then I'm not really getting back to my desk until 11. And I just feel like that like delays everything a little too long. I feel like the emails start to really pile
Mm-hmm.
up. And all of a sudden it's 3 p.m. and I'm like, did I really do anything today? Where I'd rather do the opposite, really plug through my work from the 9 to 3 p.m. time. And then by 3 p.m., I'm like, oh, I could totally use a change of pace. Like, what a perfect
Mm-hmm.
time to go meet someone for a coffee. So really, I definitely try to have those morning hours be where I'm banging out just like all my work. I am someone, I wish I was like that zero inbox person. I am not. However, I'm equally not like, I have one of my good friends and my brother are the people who have like 3,000 unread emails and texts. And that is also not me. That would give, I don't think I would ever sleep at night. I use my email really as like my main to-do list. So
Mm-hmm.
I use Gmail. I love like that I can color code all my different files and categories for things. So as an email comes in, I usually pretty quickly categorize it. And I have all my different folders and categories color coded. So even though it's still sitting in my inbox, I categorize it. So I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure pink is for, is it pink or one of those colors is for my clients. Things that have to do with my blog are green. Things that are just like a conversation with editors are blue. So I can really sort of like scroll over it quickly and
Mm-hmm.
get a sense of what's happening. And then everything stays in my inbox until I've done the work that needs to be done on it. Like I'll
Mm-hmm.
open it, I'll read it, might not get back to it right away, might get back to it right away, but I don't move it out of my main inbox and file it away until I've done what I've needed. And that just keeps me, hopefully, so I don't, not too many things fall through the cracks. I also love a to-do list and I keep my calendar online now, like we all do. I miss the days of having a written planner, but I found when I tried to do both, I would lose things. So my
Mm-hmm.
whole calendar's online in Google, but I do write down my to-do list every day with a pen
Mm-hmm.
and paper. Like I love that satisfaction of crossing it off. I also, the college girl in me, I love a highlighter. So I write
Mm-hmm.
it all down, highlight what's important. So I'm a big, basically every morning I rewrite my to-do list. I love brand wise, if we're talking about, different things that make us our days successful, the brand Appointed notebooks. I think a lot of people have them. Like they're kind of well known, but they're still a small brand. I swear by their nice notebooks. It's a good, thick, white piece of paper. Like I'm so weird, but I hate when you like are
I
writing and can see
totally
through the
understand.
paper. I'm
Yes.
like, that doesn't work for me. No. So the pages are perfectly thick. You can get it solid pages or lined. They just are perfect and aesthetically pleasing in general. And that stuff matters to me.
I'm very specific about my planner. I've been using the exact same Moleskine weekly notebook planner since college. And it's my planner. And I still have a physical planner. It doesn't have my work or anything else in it. It really just has my like personal things. Like I have
Yeah,
anniversaries and birthdays and like
totally.
I will sometimes write down like doctor's appointments and things like that if I remember, but those also have to live digitally or I'm screwed. But I'm also extremely particular about my paper products that are next to
Yes,
my
I
desk.
like in a different world. One of my first internships when I was in school was working for a stationery business. I love all things paper, stationery, any of that. Like, put me in a good stationery store, I could stay there for hours. Yes, like a good monogram.
I order my own notepads for my house because I like the vertical 5x8 with a monogram at the bottom, so they look a little bit cute. And this is our wedding monogram, but I order these in like packs of 10, and I give them as gifts to everyone. Like I'll
Yes.
because they're the right thickness of paper, like you can't see through them. This is my grocery list one, or like the one that I usually use for the groceries, but
I mean, this is
because
like why we
it
could
has
be
to be in
friends.
order.
Like when
Yeah.
people are that particular about things, they're my type of girls. I think that's kind of why I have a blog and stuff like that. Like I just get weirdly, obsessed with.
These are the gift ones that I gave to my parents because they have a windmill in their backyard. So I had a windmill design to put on theirs.
We'd love a good a good notepad. Me and my mom could talk to you all day about a good notepad. We love that. So I keep a good to-do list, love crossing things off. Lately, I would say in the last year, what I've started to do, I have these notebooks. I probably have 10 that are fully used, stored away in my office. Like I just go through them pretty fast. I used to, if I talk to XYZ client, I'd take notes on our phone call about like where we're going to pitch her the 3 projects she's had photographed for 2 interior design magazines. I'll always like come up with a list of ideas and then hear from them where they want to pitch it. And I'll take notes on these phone calls. Then that's on my to-do list. So those are the things to do. But I would find that I'd always be like flipping back all these pages, be like, when did I talk to Sarah? What did we come up with? What was our plan? So now in the last year, what I've started to try and do is I still like to handwrite notes instead of taking notes on my computer. But after the calls, I will take a picture on my phone. And I feel like people know this, but not everyone does. On the Notes app of your iPhone, there's a button where it sort of looks like a camera and you can take a scan, which I just think makes it, I'm not a tech person, but I think makes it a smaller file and just easier to transport to a PDF. So you can scan with your iPhone. So I'll just take a scan, like I just take a picture as the scan function, and it automatically saves it into the notes on your iPhone, but then also on my computer. I'll open it up on my computer, save it to that client's file, and that way I can easily, help myself 2 weeks from now being like, oh, okay, Sarah, where are we pitching this project? Go open her folder, find the notes.
That's such a good hack. I did not know that, but I'm going to have to use that.
Oh, it's great. Anytime also when you like need a scan for like, you're a parent, so you probably have all those like field trips or, I just feel like there's anytime I also just like need to sign my signature on something, it's so nice to just, you do it, you just snap a quick picture and you can email it off to someone.
I'm going to use that for sure.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a lot of times you do coffee or drinks at the end of the day. What time do you typically wrap? And then what does your kind of early evening time frame look like? Understanding it might vary from day to day.
Yeah, it definitely varies. But I would say I love to meet someone for like a coffee. I put that in quotation marks around 3 p.m. I love my morning coffee, but I don't, as I mentioned earlier, I love to sleep and I'm not the best sleeper. So I don't let myself have coffee after noon, after like 12 p.m., just because I worry that the caffeine will keep me up at night. But I still am always happy to meet someone for an iced tea, water, whatever, for that quotation coffee type meeting. And those are also sometimes nice for work. I will say the New York City, or at least my interior design industry, everyone generally is pretty happy to meet for a cocktail or a cocktail hour. However, I always like, what if someone doesn't drink? I feel like it's nice to always offer the coffee too, in case that's a better fit for them. But my day is very flexible. I could meet someone any time of day. And there's definitely some people that I work with who need to be in their office till 5 p.m. or till 6 p.m. So they always want to meet for more of the cocktail time. So usually I would say I can expect myself to be at my desk until 2 p.m. And then from there, it's sort of in flux where maybe I will be meeting an editor for like, they need to be at their desk all day or doing most of what they're doing. They're busy work, but can meet for a after work drink. Let's say if we plan to meet at 5 p.m., I might stop working at 2 p.m. to then do some of my personal stuff, do laundry. If I maybe haven't worked out, maybe I'd go work out then. And then if I'm meeting the editor, let's say in downtown Manhattan, I might go an hour early and do an errand beforehand that's in that area. So I think sort of I don't tell my clients I try to always get back to my clients as fast as possible in my emails. Like my consulting clients, they're paying me, they're my top priority versus sharing on Instagram or doing whatever. I don't give them like true working hours of when I work. No one's really ever asked. I try to always get back to them as quick as I can. But I would say 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. is like at my computer getting the heavy work done. And then I'm a little more offline from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. because my work often picks back up again from 5 p.m. to 7. So I sort of like pull back a few hours in the middle of the day to be more personal so that I can then dive back in. But then sometimes also like, it might not be a work thing, but I'm just meeting a friend for drinks or whatever, or going on a date, hopefully, or whatever. So that just, I feel like my day just becomes a little bit more unpredictable at night or in the afternoon in the best way. I mean, one of the reasons I love to live in New York is because there's so many fun places to go. So many things to do. Yeah. I love trying a new restaurant or something that I read about, in the New York Times that I could make a reservation at and go the next day. I just love that. I guess maybe I'm a bit of a food. I like just like trying new things. I lived in Boston for sort of a year and a half during the pandemic and I loved it. And I'm from there. And during the pandemic, I wanted to be close to my parents and my family. So it made sense. But I didn't love living in Boston. And I think what I sort of realized is I like the fun new thing. And I feel as though Boston always gets it 3 years later. And I
Yeah.
realized I was like, I want to be in the center of it all. I want to be where it starts, where,
Yeah.
Soul Cycle opens and has everything and doesn't come 5 years later. So that's definitely a reason I love living in New York, that I can go try all these fun things. But I will say I'm a huge homebody. So like I might be busy from 5 to 8 p.m., but on my best, like there's nothing I like more than being home by 8:30 or not. I mean, really 8 p.m. would be my ideal. Like someone asked me to do something at 8:30 the other day and I was like, oof, like maybe it was a date or something. I was like, I don't know if this is starting on the right foot. Like I like to be in my PJs by 9 p.m.
So if the variability in your afternoon, what does your cool down, wind down, end of day routine look like?
So I am a homebody. I'm definitely like have this sort of, I don't know, like I think I can chat with anyone. I love talking, clearly, on this, anything, but I am an introvert. I really recharge being alone and I need a lot of quiet time to just recharge my batteries. So I think a lot of that's why ideally I'd be home. Like I love a 6 p.m. dinner so I can be home by 8. If I haven't showered that day already, I love taking a shower, feeling, especially after a day in New York City,
Yeah.
um, feeling fresh and clean and like changing right into some comfy PJs or, I live, hopefully if maybe you follow me on Instagram, I post a lot about the clothing that I'm wearing, shopping. I love to shop. I love to get dressed up, but I also live for being comfortable. Like all I want is to be home in cozy sweatpants. So I also love like, okay, I'll come home, shower pretty quickly so then I can just take my makeup off and change into some good sweatpants and a sweatshirt or whatever. And my wind down routine is usually, I love watching TV. So I think also one time I was telling someone about it. I think for me, TV is such a nice sort of sadly, like brain numbing activity. Like I love any beast. I've seen probably every show that's a show to be talked about, but I also love Bravo. I'm a huge Real Housewives fan. And my family's always like, man, this is such trash. How are you watching it? And I think sometimes I love to just like truly escape into the trash of it all. To just I have a brain, like definitely an anxious brain that's always thinking about a ton of things. What do I need to be doing? What's on my to-do list? So I love to just be in my cozy, PJs on my couch, watching some trashy show and just like escape for 45 minutes and not have to think about anything else, just really wind down. Usually when I watch TV, I am a big needle pointer. So I often will be needle pointing while I do that. It's just, my mom, everyone in my family, every woman in my family needle points. I've done it for years. I really got back into it during COVID and it's a hobby that I love. So I'll do that. And then somewhere in there, I have dinner, obviously. I am a terrible cook. Maybe not terrible. I don't like to cook. So there's a lot of takeout or a lot of, like what I had for lunch, the leftovers for dinner. The other night I had Cheerios for dinner. Like I really just am not picky. I'll make some scrambled eggs for dinner sometime, really whatever. And then I like to be in bed probably by ideally on my ideal days, 9 or 9:30. I wish I had a great wind down bed routine. I do like to read. So sometimes I have a Kindle, which I love. Of course, we all love physical books. And that's, we need to like, I miss that we all don't have as many physical books, but a Kindle just changes your world. Oh my gosh. Like you can take it on the subway, you can travel with it. One of the best purchases I've ever made. So I go to bed usually with the idea that I'm going to take 30 minutes to read on my Kindle. Let's be honest, it basically never happens. Oftentimes I am like scrolling Instagram and just wasting other time on my phone as my wind down activity. Maybe speaking on this podcast will remind me that I could be better at that. So maybe I'll work on that. Like I have my Kindle and another book I just bought all sitting on my bedside table. So I want to reach for them. So that's the fall goal for me. Maybe I'll work on that. And then I just typically set my alarm, turn my phone on the sleep mode, do not disturb, turn my lights out and go to sleep. I've always kept journals for a long time. So if I ever write in my journal, it is at night around this time. I don't do that every night. I feel like I typically do it every usually at least once a week, sometimes twice a week when I feel like I have something to report on.
Noodle on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. There's a lot of evidence I feel around journaling and like that as a habit is good for gratitude and a lot of different things. I used to keep journals as a kid, but then could never really be consistent with it as an adult. And I recently got, actually not recently, it's been a full year almost, one of the like 5-year journals. Do you know what I'm talking about that?
Yes. Where it's
yeah.
like just a quick thought for the day.
It's a few things every day. And this is supposed to be used for like 5 years. And I'm almost back to where I started in 2022. So I'm kind of excited to.
Amazing.
I've been doing it for a full year and I really like it. And it's just like write down something random that happens or like things that my kids say or like I was feeling very burned out today.
Do you read them back? Like, will you go back and read?
Yes, I will be able to see like on September 28th last year, I had a great day with the kids and I went to a book club.
Oh, cool.
So it'll be kind of fun, especially as I hopefully get all the way through 5 years, if I can sustain the practice. I just enjoy, I keep it next to my desk. So like the first thing I do in the morning is when I sit down at my desk is like organize my work and then like see this, it's open to the page that I need to write on. And I
love that.
really like that as a practice. You talked a little bit about needle pointing. What other hobbies do you have? Tell me about your hobbies.
Oh my God. I could like, what is that? What would you call it? Be a hobbyist all day long.
Yes.
My ideal would be to only do hobbies. So I've needle pointed. I really am just like an artsy, crafty girl. Like I think a lot of my friends know me as someone who's super crafty. So they're always, a friend texted me. She's like, how do I get a logo on a tote bag? I'm like, you could screen print it. You could do a patch, whatever.
Let me tell you.
So I needle point. In the winter, usually I like to knit as well. I needle point more because I find needlepoint a lot easier. Like knitting, once it starts to get to math and counting and you're doing a sweater and what's your gauge, my brain could explode. I could make knit a hat, knit a scarf, and knit a baby blanket really easily. Once it gets past that, last year, I challenged myself to do a sweater. I really wanted to knit a sweater, and I did. It's not perfect, but it's like a sweater I wear cozy around the house, and I'm very proud of myself for that. I made a few mistakes.
I made myself a sweater last year or 2 years ago. I made a Christmas sweater from like one of the Christmas sweater or like the kits from We Are Knitters or whatever. The amount of mistakes on this thing is comical, but I'm like, I'm going to take this out every year and it's going to be my Christmas sweater for ugly sweater parties.
Exactly.
It's the only purpose.
So I think I usually, so if it's September right now, probably in November, I'll get the itch to want to knit something. It's like as it gets cold.
It's such a cold weather habit for me too.
So I do that. Lately, I've been trying to get into embroidery. My mom and I have you see so many cute things on Instagram and everything of like a little kid's name embroidered or all this stuff. And because we're both crafty, we're like, we can do that. We're not going to pay $30, blah, blah. And then you buy all the materials and you're like, I have way surpassed $30. I'm not even good at it. But that's something I sort of noodle in. I have a sewing machine. I've gone through phases of, one day I would love to make a quilt. I feel like that is like such a beautiful heirloom thing to have. I don't think that's probably in my current life setting. That will be like once hopefully I have kids and live in a house and, the kids are off to school or something. I don't know when I would ever do that. Maybe when I'm a grandma. But I do. One thing that I think is really interesting about hobbies is we live in this phase where so many people are making hobbies their job. And we're all like, I feel like just like the world kind of tells you like, you can capitalize on your hobby, like make money off of these great things. And there's been many times where I've been tempted to do more with needlepoint. It would be so fun to design canvases. Or I one time had a needlepoint company ask me for help with PR. And I don't know if it will always stay this way. I'm not sure if it's good advice or not, but I sort of decided that I really so enjoy it as a hobby and something that's separate from my work that I didn't want to make it work because I was worried that I'd lose the joy of it once it became my job. So maybe that's like, I don't think everything needs to be capitalized on for money.
I couldn't agree more. And I actually was just talking about this with Liz Lidgett and the episode that aired this week and how people are kind of losing that joyful hobby space because people are like, oh, you could sell it. And I was telling someone the other day and they're like, oh, you could sell blankets on Etsy. And I was like, I knit blankets for my friends because I love them and I love their children. It takes forever and it's boring. I think, what's her face? Elise, Myers did something about like crocheting. She's like, never start with nanny squares because then you have to do 119 of them and it's exactly the same thing. And like knitting a blanket for a baby a lot of times is like a very
repetitive,
the same thing over and over and over and over again. I've been knitting a blanket. I think the baby's like 5 months old now.
Never is done in time.
Hopefully Christina's baby will get the blanket before it turns 1. But I was like, I could never do that for someone I don't love because
you don't have the love behind it pushing through.
No, it's just not going to happen. And similarly with needlepoint, I was also like, one day I was painting my own canvases for ornaments I wanted to make for my kids. And my husband's like, oh, you could sell those. And I was like, yeah, but I'm probably not going to because like, I'm like painting the little like X
so
by
long.
X. Oh yeah. By hand.
It makes you like appreciate, you're like, these are expensive, but I realize why they're expensive because it's so hard to paint a needlepoint canvas.
No, totally. In terms of your friends, so how do you make time for friends during your day?
That's a great question. I love oh my God, I love all my friends. They're the best. I should maybe I'm trying to think about the right way to say this. I am a terrible texter. Every single one of my close friends knows this about me. It is like, I don't know what it is.
We all have that one friend. We all have that friend.
Me. And I'm like, I've like talked to my therapist about it. I'm like, why? What makes it so I can't just get back to people right away? So all my friends know that. So I definitely am slow to respond to texts. But then when I respond, I like will send 6 long messages or something like that. I sort of like dump a big response. But I think like most people, I love to see my friends in person. We're all sort of better in person than over text. I am of course not good over text. I do love a FaceTime. My family and I FaceTime like multiple times a day. Instead of calling each other, we FaceTime. I probably have mentioned my family a lot. I'm very close with my family, which I love. They're like my closest friends. And then with my closest friends, we also FaceTime a lot. I have amazing friends in New York City, but they have dwindled. You know, I used to feel like I had so many friends that lived here, and post COVID, and just as we get older, especially I'm at this phase where a lot of my friends are getting married and having their first kid, you know, a lot of people don't want to stay in New York for that. So that's different. But I so appreciate the girlfriends that I do still have in New York and love, you know, getting dinner with them. Or I'm really excited now that I've moved into a bit of a bigger apartment. I love to have people over to my house and host, you know. I don't cook, so I don't invite them over for dinner, but I do love to have them over for cheese board and wine. And I used to have like a book club with some friends in the city, and that dwindled, and I'd love to bring that back now that I have a place where I could, like, I would have book club and host every month. Like, I don't care. I love that. That is sort of like the perfect way for me to be social. So I'd love to bring that back, but I think all of us could make more. Hopefully I make the time for my friends, but I think we could all make a little bit more time. I think sometimes it's hard for me because I'm an introvert. Like one of your questions that we were sort of talking about before we started recording is what falls apart in your day? Like if your day gets busy, what do you drop? I'm afraid. I think sometimes I drop my friend commitments if I get really stressed or, you know, things get hectic, and I wish I wasn't that person, and I'm working on it, but I just am not going to be fun and enjoyable with my friends if I'm not sort of at my best. But of course, I do try to remind myself that like, you might think you don't want to go because like, oh, do you have to get on the subway and whatever? You always end up having fun.
Yeah.
So I have this year tried, my friends will laugh at this. They're like, man, you still cancel on us. But I try not to cancel as much. I try to say yes more and just be like, you can always leave early if you want to. Because I definitely have some social anxiety, or I think my job is very social, and I can always like, if I need to go meet an editor or a client in person, like I can turn it on. I'm there for work. I know what the end goal is. But then that sort of depletes my energy and makes it so that I might cancel on the friend that I was supposed to meet after that or the next day. And I would like to be better about that.
Well, you took the question from me, but I can definitely relate to that as well. What is something that you outsource in your day?
Oh my gosh, I would outsource everything if I could. I think that I am good at outsourcing. I should outsource more. I think since I started my own company where I am essentially a consultant that people outsource some work to, I appreciate the value of outsourcing even more. You know, like I'm like, oh, an interior designer designed this beautiful home. Technically, they could try to pitch it to a magazine themselves, but they're not going to know the right way to do it. It's going to take longer, whatever. They're really outsourcing that work to me. And hopefully I do a great job for them. That has made me realize, like, there could be so many more things I could outsource. So I'm not doing that perfectly, but all is to say, I have a wonderful woman who cleans my apartment. She's actually here right now. I was like, oh, maybe she shouldn't have come, as I need to, is the vacuum going to be in the background? So she comes every 2 weeks, lifesaver. So I outsource that. And I actually like to keep things pretty tidy. I love that someone else is, cleaning my toilet, but I love a deep clean on my own anyways. For my business, I, have a bookkeeper. I tried to do that for a second on my own, and I was like, no. What else? I do feel like I'm sure I outsource so much more. I mean, I love to get a blowout. I don't know if that's really outsourcing, but like paying a little more for the right service.
Yeah.
I love having a manicure. I feel like that's such a weird, some women always have manicures, some don't. I love having a manicure. I feel like it's like, I love to like, if I'm sitting at my desk all day typing away on my computer, if my nails are like really nicely done, I feel pulled together. And if they're chipped or, right now they have nothing on them, and I'm like, oh, like I feel gross, which is so stupid, but that's just how my brain works. So I live for like getting a nice manicure. I actually do them a lot myself, which I also really enjoy, is like just turning on a podcast or a book and painting my own nails is like an amazing quiet 30 minutes. But definitely like at least once a month I have someone else do it for me, which I love. And I'm sure I take my dry cleaning out, whatever, but I like to do my laundry myself. I think I probably might not have as much outsourcing because I just don't have a family. I get my groceries delivered a lot in New York. I think I think maybe all of us do now, but basically everyone in New York does. I don't find it works well for like produce, really.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
So yesterday I was like, okay, I need to go get my fruit and my vegetables, but all the basics I get delivered. Today I got hairspray delivered from Sephora. So we've done it all.
I love that. Working for yourself, who are your who do you talk to, or how do you find a peer group to bounce work stuff off of or get work advice? Where do you source that?
Okay, I love this question because I will say I love working for myself, mainly because of the flexibility of my schedule. The fact that I can get a manicure in the middle of the day or go home and see my brother and his children for a long weekend and book a flight on Thursday without telling a boss or anything. The flexibility of your schedule is the best part of working for yourself. For me, the biggest downside is having coworkers. Like I just love having someone to bounce an idea off, or even just like, where'd you go to dinner this weekend? What's going on in your life? Like the chit chat. So I do really miss that about working for myself, but I think, worked on cultivating hopefully a good group of friends. I work in a very female dominated industry, so it mainly is women. I think most people would say they are, but I am the biggest proponent of like, there's no secrets. I'm not competing with another business. Like I will really share as much as I ever can with people. So I think that has helped cultivate and knowing more people, because I really don't like hold anything too close to my chest. I mean, I am such an open book. I'm sure sometimes my mom's like, man, you don't need to tell the internet everything. Like I will basically tell anyone anything. So I always suggest, like, if there's anyone else who does a business that even doesn't have to be the same as yours, like send them an email, ask to hop on the phone for 20 minutes. I mean, I have a phone call tonight at like 2 p.m. today with just another girl I know who does a lot of like marketing consulting. So she doesn't do anything PR related, but we just have a lot of overlap. She works with influencers, and I know we'll just like chat for 30 minutes about what she's up to. If she has a contact here, it just sparks ideas. There's some other women who have their own, similar to me. Like I don't have any employees. I'm just a one-woman show. I'm on a Slack channel with like 4 or 5 other publicists. So that was a great idea that someone suggested. And I was like, oh, I'd be thrilled to join. And so I don't have to use Slack for anything else. I do at an old job, I used Slack and I really liked it. It's just a nice way for someone to be like, have you heard from this editor? Or like, where should I pitch this project? We just put in questions a lot. And then that group of people, we try to have a Zoom once a month where we just chat and trade advice. So that sometimes I miss the Zoom, which I feel bad about, but life happens. And then just one of my good friends is a graphic designer, and we chat so a different business in mine, but it's similar business, and you have clients, you're working one-on-one. Do you have them sign a contract? What's your retainer? How do you respond to this email that's like a little bit tricky? I really just appreciate having people to call for that. And so if someone's wondering of how to do that, you just have to reach out to people. Like so many people are really apt to help or hop on a phone call. And I try to remember that too, because then when someone asks me, I'm like, oh, can I make time for that phone call? And it's like, yes, we can all make time for the 30-minute phone call, really. However, I do think that some younger people, if they sort of reach out to me and they're like, I'd love to work in a more creative field. I work in XYZ marketing and I'd love to switch to more creative marketing. Can we hop on the phone? And I'm like, yes, of course we can hop on the phone, but I would appreciate if you're very prepared to come with questions. Like if you're asking for my time, please like be prepared with, if you want to switch jobs and are looking for a new job, like I don't know if I'll find you a job, but maybe I can connect you with someone, but I'm going to need you to send me your resume. So ideally maybe send me your resume before the call so I can look at it to get my brain spinning. So it's a good reminder for myself if I ever reach out to anyone, but I just think it's good to sort of think through what's the call actually going to get you? What's that, like 30-minute coffee? Yeah.
What's the ask?
Which I think sometimes people kind of skip. They're like, oh, I know I just need to network. And it's like, let's take it one step further.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I appreciate the open bookness, as this is something that I love asking people about. Just like, tell me about your days. This is why I love your podcast though too, because I'm like I would live to be a fly on the wall in people's life. Like I just want to know all the details of how things work, what makes them tick, everything. I love that. So Nan, where can people learn more about you and follow you?
Okay. So, we didn't even talk about my blog that much, but that's, fills in through the rest of the day. So I hope that you'll follow along on my Instagram. It's nan.philip. And Philip it's nan.philip. And that's my Instagram handle. And then similarly, Nan Philip is my website, nanphilip.com. So I hope you'll follow along. Instagram is really where I share the most of my day-to-day life. I post in stories, try to post in feed. But my blog, I do update. I don't update as much as I'd like, but hopefully at least once a week. And then on the blog, you can also subscribe to an email newsletter, which again, like all things in life, I wish I sent out at a regular cadence. I don't, but I feel like that's a reason for you to subscribe because I won't be bombarding your inbox every day. It's more like we'll be lucky if you get an email from me 2 times a month. So that's also a place to follow along. And I'm always just forever grateful that anyone's even interested. So
awesome. I will share all of those in the show notes for sure and on Instagram. And then Nan, what is your favorite part of a day in your life?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I feel like all of it. That sounds so corny, but I really am so grateful and I feel very fortunate that I can like really pick my days. Like I realize, I don't have a lot of there's no dependents, there's no children, there's not a husband that I'm catering to, anything. Like I can wake up and really make my day whatever I want and similarly plan the next day however I want. And I think that is such a luxury and something that I probably won't have forever, or hopefully if I get married and have kids and whatever. So I sort of say all of it in the sense that I can pick and choose exactly how to do it would be my favorite part of the day. But I also love like my wind down, come home, gotten out of the shower in a comfy pair of PJs and just like resting.
Love that. Well, Nan, thank you so much for sharing your days with us and giving us a view into a day in your life.
Thank you, Ellie. This was so fun. And I'm so flattered that you thought of me and I love your podcast. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you.